And now the moment you've all been waiting for, Senator Manchin. Now, how many conferences start with John Podesta and end with Senator Manchin? You cannot ask for better bookends than that. We're, I think, excited to hear his views on what the administration should be doing as they release this guidance. You know, as you see Senator Manchin on many TV shows, if you ever met him in person, he's very dogged. So it's going to be quite an interesting potential fight. U.S. Senator Joe Manchin was sworn in to the United States Senate on November 15, 2010. As a senator, Joe Manchin is committed to bringing the spirit of bipartisanship to Washington. Legislatively, job creation is Senator Manchin's top priority, and he believes the government should act as a partner, not as an adversary, in helping to create the environment that produces good American jobs. Senator Manchin is strongly committed to developing a balanced national energy plan that utilizes all of our resources and recognizes that fossil fuels will be a vital part of the energy mix for decades to come. Senator Manchin currently serves as the chairman of the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee and also serves on the Senate Committee on Appropriations, the Senate Committee on Armed Services, and the Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs. Welcome, Senator Manchin.
You want to say something?
Yeah.
How are you all? I don't know if I need this or not, but let me just say first of all, it's a pleasure to be here and everything that you all do. I can bring you real quickly up to speed on how we got to where we got to. The bottom line is, how do we finish the job? That's where we're at today. So Robbie and we'll have a good conversation. You feel free to ask any questions you want. But this whole IRA, Inflation Reduction Act, came about after the BBB. I just couldn't vote for the BBB, and I tried for 8 months and got the crap beat out of me. And I just couldn't get there. And I told the president I just couldn't. So things went kind of silent for 3 months after December 2021 till about the end of March. Well, in about February or March, they told us that we were going to basically have maybe no longer than a 2-week war when Russia was going to invade Ukraine. That was the top intelligence was telling this. Well, that didn't happen, as we know. And then we were told inflation would be transitory. And that didn't happen, we know. So things had changed quite drastically. So by March, they still weren't talking to me. And then we happened to pass in the hall one time, Schumer and I, and we were talking. He says, "You think you're ever going to vote on some of this?" I said, "Well, not the way you've got it, I'm not." And I said, "You got bigger problems than that. You got an energy problem." And I said, basically, you've had Putin weaponize energy. He's done it effectively, and Europe's going to pay the price for it. Europe and the EU, our allies of the EU, is somebody that we need, and we need to be part of one movement as far as protecting democracies and freedoms around the world. Being the superpower, you're supposed to be able to help your allies. We weren't energy independent at that time, and we weren't able to help them. And I can tell you, if your allies can't count on you, they'll find energy somewhere else. And wherever that may come from, I'll guarantee you one thing makes it more difficult for us. I was just afraid of the whole thing unraveling. The superpower status of the world means that we have the reserve currency is the US dollar. When they start trading and buying in different places, don't have our values, you got a problem, whether it's Russia, whether it's China, whether it's Iran, whether it's North Korea, whatever, the nations that don't have any values that we have. So that's always something that's bothered me, that we could fall into that trap and things would go really haywire quickly. So I said, "You got an energy problem?" He said, "Well," he says, "you're chairman of the Energy Committee, why don't you write a bill?" And I said, "Well, I can write a bill, but you're not going to like it." And he says, "What do you mean?" I said, "The difference between you and I, Chuck," and I says, "the far left of our party, is," I said, "you all believe that eliminate is going to fix and clean the climate up. I believe everything completely different than that. I believe that innovation will clean the environment. We'll be able to help the people around the world will be able to follow what we do. But it'll be through innovation, not elimination." So he says, "Write the bill." So I wrote the bill. No one knew. You didn't know. Nobody knew. That was April, May, and by June, the war was hot and heavy. The Ukraine-Russian war was hot and heavy. Inflation was 9.1%, and the president's poll numbers were in the 20s, low 20s. They had serious problems. So they called me and said, "You got a bill?" I said, "Oh, we got something." Yeah, I think we do. And then we started talking. And then they started wanting to negotiate. And I said, hey, guys, you have to understand, this is not negotiable. We don't need to negotiate. I don't need to negotiate because I'm crazy politically to even do anything. I mean, I know the politics well enough that I don't need to be down this road again. But how many times do you get a chance to write a policy, an energy policy that might help your country and could help the world, if you will? And to walk away from that, every political advisor I had says, you're crazy, don't get back involved, boom, boom, boom. I said, guys, I don't think that's our purpose of being here. Our purpose is to do something. And if we can write this bill, then we should do the best we can to have a balanced approach. So what we took is a two-prong. This bill was always designed to be energy security. It's going to be tremendously helpful to the environment, but it's going to be energy security. And that's the purpose of how we wrote it. And we wrote it to be balanced. We wanted 10 years of security as far as in energy security, that we would be producing the oil that we needed in our country, the natural gas that we needed, and the fossil would be in conjunction with everything that we did with renewables, had to be done with our fossil. So I'll give you an example. The way it is, they can't be putting windmills and develop the wind projects in the Gulf unless we're extracting the gas and oil in the Gulf. They can't be putting solar farms and wind farms on BLM land unless we're extracting the minerals that we need. It's a balance, and we're all in this together. Oh yeah, okay, we're for that. Well, they had been for anything about this time in June and July. So we finally, the last conversation I had with the president and everybody, I said, listen, I said, you understand this is energy security. This is basically, this is the purpose of this bill, and we're going to also be able to help an awful lot in reducing the prices by putting more product in the market. And that's what we call inflation reduction. And really, inflation has been going down to 6%. It's not added to inflation. And on top of that, we pay $240 billion, first time in 30 years, towards debt. We've never been able to do a bill, had it paid for, and use part of it for debt reduction. That was the first time in 30 years. And I know my Republican friends are upset thinking that this is a Democrat bill, so we've got to be against it. My Republican friends were very much involved in this bill as we developed it for over 5 years, our thought process of what we could do for our country. What happened, it was the only vehicle I had was reconciliation, so we used what we had. And that kind of put them there. I hope that now they would see, and that you all can basically talk to all of our friends and let them know that, hey guys, come on, we've got a piece of legislation. If we do it and do it right, and if we can get this administration to implement it properly, we're going to be in great shape. If not, we're going to be challenged. And if we don't get permitting, you can forget, most of it will be voided. And that's what we're working on. So with that, I'm going to call Robbie back out. We'll have some conversation. You can ask any questions you want. Oh. And I take constructive criticism really well.
Okay, well.
You want to hear?
Yeah, please.
Get my water.
No problem.
I get a lot of constructive criticism.
Senator,
Okay.
Thank you so much
Yes,
for everything. And, we've been spending the last 2 days here talking about how do we transition, how do we do that responsibly, how do we do that in America and amongst our allies for all the supplies, which is why we called it a pathway to electrification from minerals to the market. And it's been quite a great day with miners, 2 days with miners, processors, charging companies, EV companies, OEMs. These are the people in the room who will I guess, see your vision to fruition. So you were instrumental in getting IRA passed, as we all know, and there's been a lot of back and forth with you and the administration.
What was the last you heard?
You might not get invited to dinner tonight. But they, on Friday, they're supposed to release some guidance. Do you have any idea, and what do you believe is the recourse if they don't?
I would hope that all of you would help me. I'm very much concerned. I've been meeting with them because I've told them just point blank, and these are all my friends, people I know. You can have an agreement to disagree as long as you can be civil about it. You don't have to get nasty and call people names. I just think they're crazier than hell. And when I say that, I mean that with all good humor. They're trying to basically, implement a piece of legislation that they never passed. I said, I've told Janet Yellen that, and I've told from John Podesta, we all have good conversations, and we're trying. I know they're trying, but they're catering to the far left, and the far left has a pretty good grip on them. And I said, guys, I'm not going that direction. And so I'll give you one example. A couple just, let's take the EVs. I didn't want to give 75 cents rebate to the car manufacturers. Not 75 cents, forget 7,500. I didn't think they needed it. They're developing a product, it's a good product, people like it, and they're going to buy it and they're waiting a year to get it. Why in the hell would you have a discount, make the Treasury pay 7,500? And I mean, they wouldn't let up. It's almost like they did their whole financial performa around that $7,500. This makes them, either viable or not. So we finally, I said, okay, if you're adamant about this, let's talk seriously. What can our country get for this? So I said, as far as I'm concerned, I want a solid, safe, dependable supply chain. I said, first of all, I think you all are crazier than hell going down. You want to have electrified all of our transportation mode by 2030 or 2035. And I said, it's the first time in the history of the United States that we've ever not been able to supply our own transportation mode. Cars, trains, planes, you name it, we could build it in America. Now all of a sudden you're all taking off and you're wondering, okay, I said, I'm old enough to remember waiting in line to buy oil when OPEC shut it down in 74. I'm sure as hell not going to wait in line to get a battery from China. I'm just not going to do it. More we kept talking. I said, okay, well then there we do. We'll give you $37.50 if you secure and process the critical minerals that we need in North America. And then we said, well, we need more than that. So, okay, I knew Australia was big. I said, we'll go. How do we determine what? So we went North America and free trade agreement countries. We'll give you the other $37.50 if the battery's manufactured in North America. Now, here's where the catch. I mean, this is the games they want to play with me. Okay, what's securing and processing mean? Does it mean basically the process of the raw product into a form that we can take it and put it in a manufacturing form? Or is it basically making the powders and the wafers and everything that we need and foils and calling that processing? Well, you do that and we don't meet our objective of being self-reliant. So that's what I'm fighting them with right now. I think they're going to try to screw me on this. And I'm willing to go to court. I'm willing to stop it all because that's not the intent. Now, if they want to play that game, that's Russian roulette. And that hurts. We shouldn't have to get there. So we'll find out what happens. But I've called Janet. I've called Janet. She knows where I'm standing. I've talked to Jennifer and made her aware because basically Treasury is waiting on kind of how they're going to decipher through DOE. And I told them what I thought they were going to do and play that game. And I said, I'm not playing that game with you. That wasn't intent. So that's it in a nutshell, guys. And I just, ladies and gentlemen, I just hope that you all get involved because if we can get them corrected, understanding what the intent and the way the bill was written, we even put in the bill when you read what is processing and what's manufacturing. And they're still trying to negate that. So we're adamant about that. And we'll see what happens. But there's some challenges. We'll get through them.
Are there things you've learned or thought about the supply chain that might have changed since you've written the bill?
The thing I did when we wrote the bill, I got to be honest with you, because I've always felt that our allies were part of a secure supply chain. I mean, my God, they go to battle with us. They'll fight, elbow to elbow and shoulder to shoulder and die with us. So why wouldn't they? So I've told them. I couldn't figure out why Macron and Schultz were so mad. I went to Davos and it was just bombardment. And then the amount of activity in this bill has created, I've never seen, you all might have, I've never, in 12 years I've been here, seen anything that created this much activity this quickly and also this much interest from around the world. Not just here, well, we're going to move his, playing chessboard. This is coming at us full throttle. And I'm looking at why are you trying to liberalize what we've done to the point that we can't have the long run, okay, and stay within our framework. So you understand, no matter what they tell you about BBB, it was $6 trillion if it was a penny, because of all the things were in there that they're going to let you have it for 1 year and say, well, we can't continue that because we're out of money. I'll guarantee it had been debt financed. That's how most of the games are played here. I didn't want to play that game. I said, whatever we do, you're going to have security for 10 years. You can plan on it. When they liberalized this thing here, and you saw the Wall Street Journal article the other day, and they said they looked at this and that, and I've talked to David Solomon at Goldman Sachs, and I said, guys, you're basically, why couldn't you have said that this is the most attraction you've ever had, and you see so much demand, this could bring $3 trillion pretty rapidly to our country from manufacturing. So the two things that they just were off the mark from what we thought what the score would be was the 45X tax credit, manufacturing tax credit, and the EVs. You know, because if EV's done the way it should be done, it's going to take us a while to where we can be up a couple years, and we can accelerate that and get there. But they're assuming that the whole thing's going to change over in a few years. Everyone's going to be driving EVs. I don't think that's going to happen. And then they're thinking that by 2050 we'll be net zero, so everything has to crunch up to that. So they put $1 trillion price tag. Well, the people that want to repeal, there's believe it or not, there's people that would vote to repeal it because they really don't understand how much they were involved in this bill. The repeal parts of the bill that basically IRA would go away or it wouldn't take effect. So they're probably hoping for some of this to happen. So we're just really on top of this, watching very carefully, and they know where I stand on it. And we'll just see what happens. But I'm praying to God they don't do what I think they might want to do.
Yeah, one thing we think is very important, I know I shouldn't lobby on stage. But,
you can do that. Yeah, go ahead.
You know, as they, look, we have a lot of allies here, we, you know, are not free trade countries. So assuming that they open it up.
They've opened up to Japan,
Japan
first, so you'll know. They've come to me, and I said, guys, listen, I don't have a problem opening up to our reliable trading partners.
Right.
So with France and UK, the EU, all of them, I'm fine, okay? And I'm fine with the processing in those areas. I'm just not fine with you all completing the project, and all we're going to end up is assembling here.
Right.
That is not the bill, that's not how we wrote it, and it's not how it should be implemented.
Well, the other thing we think is the foreign entities of concern provision that, you know, that says if you're a foreign entity of concern, you can own the 100%. We think that is more important now as they open it up to countries that might be more lax in how they regulate Chinese investment in their own countries. So it's like really important. It's sort of the backstop to make sure that the Chinese can't manipulate
well, I'll give you a perfect
our
example.
allies.
Cattle, the battery, the Chinese battery company Cattle.
Yeah.
And Ford is partnered up, and Ford tells me they got to pay 12% royalty. Well, 12% royalty on every battery that they're they say, oh, we're going to manufacture it here. We just have to pay them 12% royalty. I really said, what the hell are you people doing? They stole everything from us. Can't we at least steal it back? I says, come on. I said, it makes no sense at all. I says, and if you are going to pay them something, do you have to pay for the whole 10 years for the life of the IRA? So we're having a bit of a problem with that.
Right.
That's a perfect example.
And your Republican colleagues have really lambasted Ford for this idea of building a Chinese factory and wrapping a Ford building around it.
Well, I guess the Virginia people wouldn't take it. Detroit people took it, and they wrapped that. But, you know, I want to bring the technology. You know, that's our technology probably. They've matured it because they've done more of it than we've done. And now we're going to bring it back. But I don't see the point of us. And if you do, then the Ford product shouldn't get to $7,500, or they shouldn't get 12% of the $7,500 if you want to be accurate about it. So there's a way we can work around all this, but I don't want one penny. Our whole purpose is to build our own reliable supply chain, and I don't want China's not reliable. China does not intend us to do well. They don't have our same values, neither does Russia. Russia has proven with Putin that they will weaponize what they have, what they think is a strategic, stronghold. And if I was Xi Jinping, I'd do the same thing with the technology and all the different things they have, whether it's chips, critical minerals, processing, and all those things. So I just didn't want to get caught in that.
One foreign auto CEO said to me after IRA was passed, he said, it's a total pain in my ass. It's going to cost me billions of dollars, but if I were on Capitol Hill, I would have done the exact same thing.
What's his name?
What's
his name?
I
again?
can't tell you. I could tell you backstage. I can't tell you.
It would be nice if he would say something in public. Let me just tell you on that. So
he might not get invited back to some of their little...
They all know. Let me tell you what they know. And I said, the difference between what you all have done, I said, I've been here for 12 years, and I've gotten the crap beat out of me every year about carbon tax. Cap and trade, carbon tax. I said, guys, I just can't buy it. It doesn't make sense to me. I said, you want to sell me this chair, and you want to know how much carbon it took to make this chair, and that's the tax you're going to put on this chair. guess what? The proceeds that you're going to get from the tax is not going to be used to find technology that'll build it with less carbon. That's not what you're using the proceeds for. You're using the proceeds to distribute within your social obligations and you're running your country. I said, so we're not getting ahead at all you're doing is putting a higher price tag. I will not sign up to that. And they beat me up every year within this country thinking the only way we can get a cleaner climate is to have carbon tax. I said, bullshit. That doesn't get you anything but higher prices. We finally had a chance to do incentives. So I looked at Macron and I looked at Chancellor Schultz, and I says, you all have used the stick. You've used the tax. And that hasn't produced what needs to be produced for us to go into a more cleaner technology. We're going to use the carrot, incentives. And I can assure you the incentives will work better. The only thing you're mad about is now you're going to have using some of the resources from your tax to put it into incentives so you can compete. That's the only decision they got to make. And they've got to figure out how they're going to do it and balance things out. They'll work it out.
I think you said it better when you came back from Davos and you were on CNN.
What did I say?
You said to them that you decided to tell people what they couldn't do. I decided to bribe them. You chose your way, we chose ours.
Is that on film?
That's what you said on...
Is that recorded?
Yeah. I'll send it to you, CNN.
That's not, Jesus Christ. I do get myself...
Sometimes you just wake up and say, who said that? Out-of-body experiences. Actually, in Europe, we just opened up a sort of an offshoot in Europe because of their energy security challenges. Of course, when I was there 8 years ago talking about their energy security challenges, they used to laugh at me when I talked about dependence on, and I'd say Russia, and they'd go, oh, no problem. Then I'd say, they just play around with the natural gas here and there. And then I said, but what about oil? There's a dollar for dollar trade for their increasing their military budget for their oil money. And they laughed at me. And then the minute the war started, tragically, we got all these phone calls and said, no one's interested in climate anymore. They're interested in energy security. What can you do? So we opened up an organization. I've been going to Europe a lot. And they say to us about IRA, many of the people, not everyone, they say, oh, I hate it. And then they go, oh, it's genius. And the reason it's genius is that it woke them up that the world of the WTO and free trade and everything else is just sort of and if they want to get serious to compete, they're going to have to, do what we've done. And I think that's great because we'll have a good supply chain there, we'll have a great supply chain there, and there'll be less of a China supply chain.
They said it's nationalism. I said, I don't know what, I said, we're not using your dollars to incentivize and bring more manufacturing to the United States. We're using our dollars. And I said, we're willing to share with you. I said, and we want to make sure that to remain a superpower. I believe with all my heart and soul, you have to be energy independent and secured. And I said, if you can do it and you're not doing it, but you want someone else to do it for you. The other thing that really drove me crazy, that really got me going when I started writing the IRA, that was about the time in March. I think that might have been the real catalyst that really got me fired up. It doesn't take a whole lot, as you know. That the administration says, well, we're going to maybe remove the sanctions off of Iran. We're going to basically open up to Venezuela, take sanctions off. And I said, let me make sure I understand what you're saying. You want to let the most prolific terrorist supporters in the world have more revenue to do more damage to humankind. Is that what you're saying? And I says, next of all, I says, you're worried about the climate, but you're willing to open up sanctions to countries that have very little oversight in their environment and EPA regulations. I said, you're just a bunch of hypocrites. That's all you are, is a bunch of hypocrites. And I says, and people that we call America hypocrites, they should, because that would be what you're adopting. So that really was got me fired up. The thing that what we're trying to do is add just common sense. Just common sense. And I said, supply chain has to be basically that we can depend on. Manufacturing has to be things that we'll do in North America. First, a couple of years ago, they had Canada written off of everything. Well, now Canada is such a strategic partner of ours, and I've been up. The other thing on the oil, I'll give you one more thing on oil. When they said that about going overseas and allowing Iran and allowing Venezuela, I'd gone up to the North Slope, and I said, has anyone called you all up here to produce more oil? No. I went to Permian Basin. Anybody called you all? No. I went to Alberta. 60% of our imported oil, heavy crude, comes from Alberta. Anybody called you all? No. I said, what the hell's going on here? We're not even using our own resources. So those are things I said, America has to lead. We can't ask somebody to do something because we don't want to, and we think that that's still leadership. And that's where I was coming from.
So I have to ask you, why do you think that is the perspective? Like, not to use our own resources, sort of have a see no evil, hear no evil policy?
Here's what I would ask all of you to do. This is my belief, and I might be wrong on the numbers, but I think we need to be between 13 to 15 million barrels a day of oil production to be in that spot that we are totally, absolutely self-reliant and be able to have backstop and keep the prices, global market prices in better condition and help our allies. We need to be in the 35 to 40 trillion cubic feet a year in gas. And we need to probably be in the 20 to 25 billion cubic feet a day of LNG exports to try to help the markets out and stay. That's just, I could be wrong. You all probably know a heck of a lot more than I do. I get a lot of different things coming at me. But that's where I think, we started out 1 or 2 billion when that war started. We're up to 13, 14, we're pushing 14. We've got 4 or 5 more terminals coming on board. We should be up to 20, 25, hopefully by next year, and be able to put enough product in the market to stabilize things to where our allies will be in better shape than they are now.
Do you see a conflict between the move to renewable, clean energy, carbon-free, net zero system, and the energy we need today? And what does that mid-transition period, I guess, look like?
Well, the thing that we did when I did the IRA with my staff, I said, I said, don't give me conceptual stuff. I don't want that. I don't want people's, I said, hell with the BBB, the way they were writing things, you can bring a piece of paper in like that and says, I got a great idea. And they said, oh, great, where can we send a check? Okay? I'm not into that stuff. You got to show me something that basically has been proven technology that just hasn't been matured. That's what we were looking for. So we know hydrogen's been around for a long time. Hydrogen has a lot of horsepower to it and can do a lot. We knew that, but we never put any money to it. So now we are. SMRs. We know that SMRs, the technology looks very promising, but we have to mature that. That can be a big game changer. And you have to have nuclear in the mix. If you don't, you're in serious problems. We are, and the rest of the world will be too. We know that geothermal works, and we know that we need storage for renewables. And we know 4 or 5 hours don't get it. I had a friend one time, and Brian Schweitzer. Anybody remember Brian Schweitzer, governor of Montana?
Yeah.
Great guy, just a good friend. But man, he was something. We were at a conference one time, and they invited us, and it was a real high-end environmental. I could tell when we walked in, we were in trouble. I looked at Brian and said, who booked this for us? He said, just go with it. I said, okay. So we sat there and they were just beating us up, questions back and forth. And Brian, I could tell he had enough. He said, listen here. I said, I got it. He said, listen, I got it. He says, unless you're naked living in a tree eating nuts, by God, you use energy, so get over it. I said, Brian, I think it's time to leave. And they thought it was time to leave, so we left. But it was a funny, he just got to the point.
I just thought he wanted to get naked and go live in a tree.
He might. I don't know. If you know Brian, he could, but it was just funnier than heck. But really, what 5 hours do you want your energy?
Okay, let me ask you a question on permitting, and then I know you have to go. John Podesta was here. He definitely talked about permitting, how it's really the most important thing. Many of the people here run these companies, as I said, mining, processing, manufacturing. Where are we in permitting reform? I would say that John Podesta said, look, there's going to have to be some oil and gas. He did not like the House version because they had no clean energy. But where do you think once the House passes what they've done, comes to the Senate, and how do we actually get some agreement?
Let me just tell you how the bill got put together. Again, the IRA. Everyone thinks, oh, Manchin did a dirty deal. He wants his MVP because that's his pet project. MVP puts 2 billion cubic feet a day in. It's going to be done in 6 months if they just let him do it, okay? We have nothing else to put that much product in the market that quick. That's all. That could be anywhere in the country. I could care less. But they happen to be coming out of the Marcellus Shale. Fine. And then permitting. That was all one bill. It broke up because the reconciliation process that we use to pass things, when it goes down, just party line only, it got knocked out because it didn't have finances concerned to it. Or, that got knocked out, so we had to put those separately. And that's why they're separate. Permitting, unless, everybody has something at stake here. If you're a fossil person or if you're an environmental person, this is one time we've got to work together. You can't go down this path where it takes 5, 7, 10 years to build something. Before you even start construction, you got to go through the permitting process. You can have an unreliable system that we have, that you could be, your project cost can double just through the permitting process. And once you go down that, you get a couple of permits, and you think, well, I got a permit for this, permit for that, and then you end up into the court system, and the court system strings you along, throws you back into the agencies to go through the process again. And by that time, a $3 billion project went to $6 billion. And you got people saying, I'm bailing out, I'll take my losses, cut my losses and run. That's bullshit, and I keep telling them, I say, you can't do that. People, that's not who we are as a country. So right now, I've talked to Kevin McCarthy, and Kevin, I think, really, truly, sincerely understands we've got to do permitting. He wants to. And he's got a little bit of a challenge on his side, and both sides have challenges. But I just said, Kevin, tell me what I can do to help. I've tried it on my side. And my side, we got 40 Democrats that have never voted probably for hardly any type of permitting reform. We had 40 Democrat votes. I just needed 20 Republicans. I only got 7. And these are my friends, but it was a political pay. That was just, Mitch McConnell, basically, it was just very personal to him that we passed the IRA. And he was going to make sure that nothing else happened. So, but maybe we're over that now. I hope we are. Where you all can help with our Republican friends, we need support and help on both sides. With our Democrat friends on the House side, I like to have 20, 30, 40 of them vote for it too. But it's all wrapped up in H.R. 1. And H.R. 1 does away with some things that they don't, so we have to kind of thread that needle. If they can give us something that I can extract from that, we have a bill that we had 47 votes for. If we use that bill as a catalyst, we get it over. Schumer wants to do a permitting bill. And my Republican friends want to do a permitting bill. There is no reason on earth that we shouldn't do it. Now, if they tell you politically, well, just wait till the 2024 election and we'll really get what we want. If that's the case, you had everything you needed from 2017 to 2020. You had it all. You had Republican president, Republican House, Republican Senate. Guess what? When it comes to permitting, you got one Democrat vote, me. You had me. You needed 6 more of me. You couldn't get it. Mm-hmm. Okay. We're not getting rid of the filibuster. Now, I tell them we're getting to the point that where the perfect can't be the enemy of the good. Are we moving it? We have a bill last time was about 70, 80%. A good piece of legislation. We moved the needle a lot. We can do some things to appease some of our Republican friends that send from the House. They got to have something. Everybody's got to have something, a little bit.
Can we convince Republicans to go from negative on IRA to neutral? Because many of their states are the ones that are seeing all this manufacturing.
They're seeing, if the people, here's the thing. The Democrats have to give our Republican friends just a little bit of chance to take credit for this, okay? Because they worked with me for 5 years. I knew what we were trying to do. I just didn't have a vehicle to do it in a bipartisan way. Tried, didn't have it. But I couldn't miss my opportunity when the Democrats won reconciliation, and we did some other things with health care and this. And I just took the shot and took it. That's all. And the only thing about it, I give them credit all the time. And yes, because they're benefiting. The red states will benefit from really some hard jobs and some investments. And there's enough in there for everybody. There's even David Solomon, I talked to him today at Goldman Sachs. He says there's going to be, they see upwards of $3 trillion of investment very quick. So you all see it more. And I mean, has any of you all ever seen anything that's created this much serious discussion about, man, we got somebody now that wants to help us minimize our risk for these new technologies. We got to take, you take a lot of risk in any of this stuff. But now when the government, and I've always said this, government should be your partner. We should not be your provider. Don't believe I'm going to send you a check, but I'll be the best damn partner you ever had to try to make sure that you succeed, because I'll take part of that risk with you. That's all we can do to make life better, and that's what we're trying to do.
I guess at this point I should say, are you going to run for president?
Oh, thank you, Robbie. That's just
I'm just joking. Or I could just say, as my mother would say, now tell us what you really think.
Let me tell you what I'm going to do. I will not make a decision until the end of this year what I'm going to do politically. I really won't.
You don't have to answer. I'm not on.
My reason why.
Inside politics.
Let me tell you my reason why. I've never done that. When you do that in the atmosphere we have, in the highly charged political atmosphere, you knew to yourself immediately. to the point you're a target, you're a subjected target anyway. They might, you might do this, you might do that. But once you become a confirmed target, it gets much more difficult to get any cooperation. I don't want to be a threat to anybody. I have never campaigned against a fellow Republican. I've never given money to anybody against a sitting senator. I'm not a threat to anybody, but we've got to get along. This country only works through the process that our founding fathers set up, which is a democracy unlike anyone's ever seen, and the Senate and the filibuster holds that together. Without it, we'd be flip-flopping back and forth like this. Every change would go like this. And right now, it goes like this, but it can't get clear over here. That's been the stability of the United States of America.
So let's just finish by, you asked the question, like, have people seen excitement? Have you ever been so excited about what opportunities, lie ahead for your company? So raise your hands and tell us, like, have you seen, or give a clap. Let's hear what you think. There you go.
Okay. Well, the only thing I can tell you to some of the people that might be naysayers right now, they know how successful it's going to be. Just give them come on, guys, let's go, let's work, let's be together, because we know you all had a lot to do with this too. Give them the attaboy. We just need to bring people back together, but it's a great opportunity for our country. It truly is. And I don't think this is going to pass this way again. I really don't. So, and I don't think we're getting another really a solid shot at permitting when you have all sides lined up for different reasons and different purposes and maybe a different bill. But when you get that many people want the same thing to happen, you can usually come to agreement if you're willing to give and take a little bit.
So, our Energy Security Leadership Council, which Admiral Blair, who you know well,
he's the best of the best,
is on, and they're all military, 4-star admirals and generals and CEOs of sort of major companies, big energy users. We want to work with you to help find this agreement with, and we said the same thing to John Podesta, but we've found
John's been a good. We can work with John. John, he comes from a different thought process than I come from, but it's a respectful working relationship we have, and I like John, and and he tries, and he'll do this and that, and he'll tell me when he doesn't like it, but he'll do it anyway, and he'll tell me when he doesn't like it, and he'll know he's not going to do it. So I'm okay. I understand where I'm at. But once you got that, you can work through those problems.
And we can talk to Republicans too. So we let us know how we can help through this.
Well, I think basically you guys are the movers and shakers. I mean, you're out there. You're going to make it happen.
Great.
And the bottom line, you're in the trenches every day. So just keep giving us the feedback of what you're seeing. Our intent is to give you the best opportunities that we can to make our country secured in energy and basically our economy strong with supply chains that we can depend on. If something's not working, just let me know, and we'll try to fix it. That's all I can say.
I think we should end on that.
Okay.
That's what this whole conference is about. Thank you so much. Thank you. No, seriously.
Thank you all. Bye-bye. Thank you.